Hey class, by a show of hands, who loves to sleep? I know I do. Today I will be informing you of sleeping, what it does, what it means, when it was first defined, and how much of it you need. Who doesn't love to sleep? I'm pretty sure all of us, whether we have an exciting or stressful day, go home at the end of the night, ready to fall asleep, ready to have a brand new day the next day. It's amazing how sleeping works. You fall asleep for a certain amount of hours and then you wake up to a brand new whole day full of opportunity and chances. The recommended amount of time is 7 to 8 hours or 7 to 9 hours for adults. And of course, babies sleep a lot more because so they can help in building their proteins. Now, I believe I am qualified for this topic because I myself sleep every single day of my life. And yes, sometimes I do take a nap and I appreciate and love sleeping. Also, I have done plenty of extensive research on this topic and I have found out a bunch of stuff that I didn't know about. Now, David Randall in his book, Dreamland: Adventures in the Strange Science of Sleep, did not fully understand the whole concept, but he did say that sleep has been around since 450 BC to 500 BC. A Greek doctor and philosopher named Aleimon of Croton claims that sleep is the result of blood on the surface of the body withdrawing into the interior. The history of sleep and dreaming goes back to the BC era, where there's ancient Greeks and Egyptians. But they typically thought that it was to call the gods, that it was to have visions of the gods, that through the sleep, people could interpret certain messages, certain future predictions. And they even had, reunions where they would go to sleep and try to interpret dreams. They analyzed the meaning behind dreams and dream symbols, searching for prophecies from the gods. A lot of people did this back then because they didn't really understand that sleeping was more towards ourselves, restoring our bodies, restoring our minds from all the stressful, negative things around the world. He connected the digestive process into the onset of sleeping, since we do lose a lot of weight when we fall asleep. And that's typically because we can't eat while we fall asleep. So we lose a couple of pounds or a couple of ounces every time that we go to sleep. And that's why when we get on the scale, we feel a lot lighter and we look a lot lighter. And that's the result of sleeping. That's one of the results. And also because as soon as you fall asleep and you wake up, now a raise of hands. Who has gone to the bathroom as soon as they wake up? According to the Ancient History Encyclopedia, it was in 162 AD that Galen identified the brain rather than the heart as the seat of the consciousness. Since you do a lot of thinking with your brain, they thought, have you ever heard the term that, brain over your heart? That's what he pretty much developed. Now, over the next 1600 years, little progress was made to understand the whole concept of what sleep really means. It is important to know that sleep was defined as the detoxifying process of the body, and it also meant the lack of blood, which we all were thought to have. According to the Merriam-Webster, sleep is a natural, easy, reversible periodic state of many living things that is marked by the absence of wakefulness and by the loss of consciousness to one's surroundings. It is accompanied by typical body posture, which means lying down. Whenever we fall asleep on the couch, whenever we maybe perhaps fall asleep in the car, whether we fall asleep in our bed, that is called bodily posture. Now, most of the sleeping is done with your eyes closed. Now, there is a bunch of sleepwalkers, but that's a whole nother topic, a main topic. But most of our sleeping is done with our eyes closed. It is meant to rest our whole body. Now, the occurrence of dreaming and changes in brain activity and physiological functioning is made up of cycles of non-REM sleep and REM sleep, and is usually considered essential to the restoration of our body so that we can function properly. Now, what does sleep do? How does it help us? Sleep helps the body make repairs to damages caused by different things like stress, ultraviolet rays, and other harmful exposures. All of us have a long and stressful day. Maybe not every single day, but there's a lot of stress because there's a lot of things going on in our lives. There is work, there is family, there is education, there is friends. Anything pretty much becomes stressful to everybody, especially us as humans. We tend to stress ourselves a lot more. Now, back then, it was a lot easier. This is why people are also aging very quickly, because a lot of stress is put up on us. And sleep is something that helps us get restored from all the stress and all the negative and a bunch of ultraviolet rays. Now, in the article by Emily Willingham in the Scientific American website, she claims that your cells produce a lot more proteins when you are asleep. The protein molecules form the building blocks for cells, allowing them to repair damage. This is why it's so important to fall asleep, because you produce most of your proteins while you are sleeping, which is another effect of sleeping and how it helps you in restoring your body. This is the reason why a bunch of sickened people tend to sleep a lot more. They are trying to restore their energy. This is why when you get sick, people tell you, oh, go rest. It is to help them build a strong immune system. Now, I am going to talk about who needs sleep, how many hours, and the pros and cons of sleeping. Now, our bodies are really weird because when there is lack of artificial light, which is the light that is around your house, and when there's even lack of natural light like the sun, our body reverts back to biphasic routine. What is biphasic routine? It is a sleep pattern that involves a person for sleeping for 2 segments of a day. This can also mean people who nap. Has anybody else napped? Or do you guys just sleep at night? Now, I've been guilty of napping sometimes. When it's a shady day, I don't know, my body just kind of wants to nap. I might be at work, and if there's no sun, I get kind of tired. Now, this is what that means. People who take midday naps. Now, this is very common in Latin countries and European countries. People call it the siesta when they go to sleep during the day. You know, it might be after the lunch period, because after lunch, you get like a dip of energy. You don't really go back with the same energy as you had. So they take a nap, and this is very common. I mean, I wish that we did that here, but it's mostly in Latin American countries and European countries. Now, I was also reading about this study that this psychologist, Thomas Wire, was doing with a couple of people. He was limiting the amount of hours that they had natural light and artificial light to increasing it by 14 hours of darkness. So it was a ratio of 10 to 14. He did a 4-week trial with these people, and they were pretty much split into different segments, and they wouldn't last more than like 1 to 3 hours. So where did this 4-week trial where people, it was a ratio from 10 to 14, 10 meaning their daylight hours were reduced, or artificial hours were reduced to 10 hours only, and their hours of darkness was actually 14. Now, you know, obviously more darkness than sunlight or artificial light. And this kept people with a bunch of segments, which means it had them napping a lot. And by a period of wakefulness that lasted 1 to 3 hours only, which means they were having more biphasic segments throughout the whole day, which was typically they were more into taking naps rather than staying awake, because, you know, it does affect whether you have light and whether you don't have light. Your body is naturally to respond. Whether it's nighttime, you have to go to sleep, and it's daytime, you have to wake up. Even though a lot of people get into the bad habit of sleeping in too much, which is very, very controversial, and it does affect you, which is what I'm going to talk about in a little bit. Biphasic is very thought to believe beneficial, especially for people that have insomnia, because they can't already fall asleep, and this seems to be a more flexible schedule for them. They feel like it's a lot better to just follow a biphasic routine than try to, you know, stick to a monophasic schedule, which, you know, completely doesn't do anything for them. I think that either or biphasic or monophasic, you should just, try to get your hours, because after all, it could lead to disease if you don't get enough hours, and if you get way too many, it can also be bad. So it's like you have to balance out your sleeping schedule. Now, for people that don't know what monophasic is, it means one segment, which means you're awake throughout the whole day and it's nighttime, you fall asleep, you wake up in the morning, you do it all over again. There's no nap times, there's no siestas. It's just one segment throughout your whole day. Taking a nap during the daytime is a big pro because it can give you a little energy boost, especially if you're not feeling very active or like you have a lot of energy. It's better to take a little nap than to be feeling tired for the rest of the day. It's just a pro for some people and then a con for other people, since they say that you become a little bit more grudgy, that once you wake up from a small nap, I don't know, you feel more with an attitude because you just woke up again. But it's, it's a pro and con, I believe. It just depends on the person. According to the top 10 health benefits of a good night's sleep, it is beneficial to get 8 hours of sleep. It is safe for the heart. Now, anything less than 7 hours becomes a huge risk, they say. Although there are many pros for sleeping, whether it is mostly for health reasons and comfort and to keep you looking rejuvenated, of course, because none of us want to have a bunch of eye bags, right? There are cons as well. Getting too much sleep is the main event for the many cons in sleeping. Now, you wouldn't assume this because you would think sleeping is good. What possibly can go wrong? Well, what possibly can go wrong is oversleeping. Your obesity grows and your health risks grow as well. They say oversleeping can lead to depression because it is correlated with sleeping. Have you ever feel depressed and you want to go to sleep? You don't want to be around anybody? Depression. Especially sleeping more than what you're supposed to, it increases depression. Now also, if you're all day in bed trying to sleep or asleep, you gain weight because your body is not moving, and that increases the possibility of obesity. Now, if you are already considered obese and you don't have any type of movement or move around with your body or do minimum exercise, now that can very, very be dangerous for your health. People who sleep for more than 8 hours a night has an increased rate of chest pain and coronary artery disease, a leading killer for an American, especially adults, because of its ability to cause a heart attack. Now, this is very controversial, but I did read this, that it is a main risk and a main common factor of, a heart attack while you're sleeping. Some people don't wake up because of a heart attack. And although some people don't know what it is, there has been many studies where it is caused by a coronary artery disease, which leads to a heart attack. Sleeping. Now, you didn't really think much of it, did you? Neither did I. There's a bunch of stuff that I found out myself. You think sleeping is just something that I do, on a long road trip, at an end of an exhausting day, an exciting day, a stressful day. Maybe, you didn't get enough sleep and you fall asleep in class. Sleeping has a lot of factors, and sleeping is a lot of factors. Sleeping is like the batteries in our phone. We need to get charged and ready to use the next day. Now, has this ever happened to any of you where you charge your phone and you think, oh, it needs a little more, or it can get a little more than what it's supposed to, and you end up overheating your phone, destroying your phone, ruining the battery? It happens exactly the same to our bodies. We can't oversleep because it can potentially be a health risk for us. Even though you think, oh, it's not going to do anything to me, if you keep doing it consistently, just like a phone battery, you're going to eventually explode or overheat or cause certain risk factors for yourself. Our batteries are the exact same thing as our body. In other words, you need to charge your battery every single day. for a certain amount of time until it gets to the 100%. When it gets to the 100%, you don't charge it anymore because it can become a health risk for us. Now, this example is completely parallel to phone batteries and our bodies. It does the same thing. You can't have too much and you can't have too little. If you don't have enough battery, your phone is gonna die soon, or it's not gonna last how you want it to last throughout your whole day. Who doesn't want to have it lasting? You want it to charge in the morning and you want it to, maybe be on low battery by the end of the day. That's exactly the same with our bodies. Now, thank you for having me here today, guys. I hope that you guys learned something from me, and let's keep our batteries charged.